7:51 this afternoon, a massive aftershock hit Christchurch.
Christchurch is filled with the sound of sirens this afternoon. Rescuers are still searching for survivors. Miraculously, 3 women survived the collapse.
Search and rescue staff are moving into the CBD as they prepare for their night's work.
The events of February the 22nd shocked and stunned all of us, and we all saw images of destruction, and we heard stories of personal loss and personal courage. But there's another cost too in events like this, and that's the psychological cost, and particularly the impact of these events on children. I'm here in Christchurch to give a series of talks designed to give families information on how children can be affected by these events, as well as some practical, common sense solutions that will help them cope. What I'd like to do is do sort of the 3 parts really. The first part is talking about, the signs and symptom stuff, like what's kind of normal for different age groups. To give you guys some information about how trauma affects people. I mean, and we're focusing on children and adolescents, but it's the same for us as well. So it's the impact of these traumatic events on brains, because there's a lot that we now know about why people react the way that they do. And then focus a lot on, practical and simple things that you can do. When you look at the research that's been done over the years on how children are affected by traumatic events, there's a huge range of responses. There is no one way that children are supposed to react. However, symptoms can be quite age-specific. With preschoolers, sleep and behavioural problems are common. School-age kids often experience physical symptoms like stomach pains and feeling sick, while adolescents can experience anxiety, depression and increased risk-taking. While in Christchurch, I visited some families that are still dealing with the psychological fallout from the quake. The Neil family are coping well. However, there's one member of the family who's still struggling to come to terms with the events of February 22nd. 12-year-old Kennedy was at school when the earthquake hit. A few months on, life appears to have returned to normal in the Neil household. However, Kennedy is still finding things difficult.
Kennedy, who really suffered after the first quake, did very well as well because she had to help me. But once all the kids were gone, that's when things started to get difficult for us. And she was, I want to get out of here. I do not want to stay here. I'm not staying here. For her, a majority of the time when she's really worried, she starts with, I've got a sore tummy, or I'm having some trouble breathing, or I can't settle. She lies in bed and she tosses and turns and I can't get comfortable. And yeah, so these are her ways of saying to us that I'm scared, but I don't know quite why or how to tell you.
Some sounds that she imagines or thinks she's hearing at night is something like that on its way coming, and that sends her in a bit of a panic.
Kennedy finds it hard to sleep alone. Bedrooms have been rearranged multiple times. Both parents and big sister take turns sleeping in the same room with her. What's it like for you now at night times when it comes to sleeping?
It's probably more scary because I haven't really noticed the noises that's happened, and there's like more noises and I get more worried because I don't know what they are.
If you're in your room at night trying to get sleep and you hear a creak, what, out of 10, what would that make you feel for a start?
Around 4.
Right, so go straight to a 4. So before all the earthquake stuff, creak, you would have gone to 1. Now you hear a creak, you go to 4. Why do you think that is, that happens?
Because I'm a bit more aware and that I can't really do anything about it.
And Kennedy is not alone in these symptoms. When it comes to traumatic stress, and particularly the impact of traumatic stress on people's experiences and behaviour afterwards, there are 3 parts of the brain that seem to be key players in this. The amygdala is like your brain's alarm centre. The hippocampus is where you store memories which the amygdala uses to figure out what's going on, and the prefrontal cortex is the thinking part of the brain which calms things down. I think that understanding that's really important because it helps to put people's responses to these things into some kind of context that makes sense. The problem is that when you try and explain that stuff to little children, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I thought, right, if I was trying to explain this to children, this is how I would explain it. I would say your brain is like a bunch of monkeys in a monkey tree, right? So you imagine a monkey tree Whole bunch of monkeys up there, all working together as a little monkey tribe, getting through their day. It's one monkey's job to spot any approaching danger and raise the alarm. Another monkey, the memory monkey, supplies information that'll help determine how much of a threat the danger is. And then there's the wise monkey who helps to calm everything down so it doesn't all get completely out of hand. Along comes a leopard. Alarm monkey goes, I'm not sure about that. Memory monkey comes in and goes, yeah, that's a leopard. It's a carnivore. Not great. The sort of calming down monkey at the top, the sort of physician monkey, comes in with, yeah, okay, but it's only one and it's on the ground, so I think we should be fine. Let's send a general sort of alarm to the troops, bit of a heads up. There'll be a bit of scurrying about, bit of sort of ee-eeing, and a small amount of poo throwing. You know, like, let's not go crazy, it's only one leopard, you know. Settle down. Suddenly, an overwhelming number of leopards come charging over the plains. The alarm monkey freaks. Alarm, alarm, alarm! The memory monkey kicks in with leopards, leopards, leopards. You've got monkey madness, you've got stampeding going on, and just throwing massive amounts of poo. The message goes out, if it even looks like poo, throw it. Just chuck it about. In the ensuing chaos, the wise monkey effectively gets knocked out of the tree and can't send any messages out to keep things calm and under control. It's important, I think, for children to get the fact that sometimes when you've been through like a big thing, like all of you guys went through, it's like that little alarm monkey inside your brain. He just freaks out for a bit, man. So even though before the earthquake you could be sitting at home and a truck drives past, normally your little alarm monkey, it's a bit of a rumble. The memory monkey, it's all right, it's just a truck. Your wise old physician may say, yeah, no, it's all right, just a truck, calm down, no problem. What happens now is the truck comes rumbling past, your alarm monkey, he's freaking. Then what happens is your little memory monkey, who's still freaked and short-circuited, saying earthquake, 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 and that bit that's supposed to calm everything down is still a bit sort of dazed by the whole experience and can't kick things in. What we want is to shift things back to normal. What's the single best way that you've found to relax when you start to get wound up and worried about stuff?
Deep breathing, probably.
Right. Deep breathing exercises help Kennedy to calm down by focusing on the here and now. Taking a mind off traumatic events in the past or fears of what might happen in the future. If you just lie there and start to get worried and let your thoughts go off into generating all those scary pictures, then you're breathing quicker and your heart's beating, and your brain is also feeding it with all these pictures over here. But when you do these things that you've been doing, which is you just go, hang on, stop. Just do a big breath in, let the breath out. Big breath in, let the breath out. And if you're concentrating your mind on that, on big breath in, big breath out, then you're kind of affecting it from two levels. You're affecting it because your physical message is, it's all right, calm down, and your brain isn't generating scary pictures, it's just thinking about breathe in, breathe out. So it's getting like a message from two ends that actually it's fine. Does that sort of make sense? Several months on, families in Christchurch are still feeling the psychological effects from the February 2011 quake. That's why I'm here to give a series of talks designed to help parents cope. Obviously we can't solve all problems in a 30-minute TV program. We can only give you a brief overview. However, the Sovereign Insurance Safe and Sound website address will be shown at the end of the program. This will provide more detailed information about issues and point to other resources for people needing further help. When it comes to grief and loss, words don't work. You know, I've spoken to parents here who have, you know, they've lost their husband or their wife and now they've got the kid. Words don't work for that. You have to trust your instincts about what you think is best. I don't necessarily think that children need grief counselling. You know? I think that most of the time the best therapists for children are their family. It's the people around them. People react to trauma in different ways. However, there are three main areas in which we can all be affected: flashbacks, avoidance, and increased arousal. So the first thing is the recurrent flashbacks or memory things. It can be anything like a visual image to just triggering a response. The avoidance stuff, so that what happens is people start to avoid, and children start to avoid the situations that bring up these bad feelings. And that's a perfectly sensible thing to do. Like, you just stay away from the things that make you feel bad. And the increased arousal stuff is just that sort of feeling hyper. So feeling a bit more wound up, tense, on edge, not sleeping, perhaps being a bit irritable, a bit grumpy. All these husbands will be sitting there going, whatever you do, don't look at her at this point in time. After 9/11, researchers came up with 5 basic pointers for parents to help their children cope with trauma. Safety. Firstly, reassure your kids that they're safe. Help them understand that many adults, like police and the fire service, are working hard to keep them that way. Connectedness. In times of extreme stress, being surrounded by family and people they know is enormously reassuring and again helps kids feel safe. Calm. Our kids look at us to see how to respond to an event. If you appear calm, then they're more likely to be as well. Self-efficacy. Keeping kids busy is important. Give them jobs to do and, if applicable, involve them in helping others. This promotes a sense that they can have an impact on the world around them. Hope. Finally, promote a sense of hope. Sure, things are bad, but they will get better, and this is a good message for kids to get. 4-year-old Lewis Turner had started kindy only 3 weeks prior to the quake, and he was really enjoying it. What was his experience like at kindy that day? What happened when he was there?
As the way my mum describes it, they were both thrown to the ground. So I think they were standing at the time. Kindy was just about to start, so it was lucky all the parents were still there. But then when they got outside, all the liquefaction started coming up, so it was a case of just shifting to wherever they could.
For Lewis, the problems really set in after the second quake, and it was around kindy. Can you just explain a bit of what happened?
He was absolutely fine when we returned to Christchurch. And then we went back to kindy the day it reopened, and he wasn't too bad that day. Just after a short while he started getting a bit upset, telling me he wanted to leave, and then he started crying, just saying, can we go home now? So I thought, well, fair enough, we'll call it a day. And away home we went. But then after that day, then I just couldn't get him to go into any shops or buildings again. It's like something triggered in his head, really.
It's almost like there's two things going on. He wants to go back, but it's like this other stuff keeps stopping him, and he just can't quite understand why it's happening. And I think all the things that you've been doing are all really good things. It's about trying to keep him in that structure and routine, but breaking it down into small steps that he can manage. And the fact that you took him there the first time, he starts to get upset, and you pulled the plug at that point. That that's exactly the right thing to do.
There we go.
After a traumatic event like the February quake, it's common for little people Lewis's age to experience regression, both behaviourally and emotionally. Avoiding activities or places that remind them of the event is also common. The best way to help them through this is to break the big problem down into smaller, manageable steps. This was a realistic fear of this place, and avoiding it is the best thing to do. And what you really want him to do is to have that experience of facing these things that make him afraid, but doing it in a way that doesn't overwhelm him, and that's slow, stepwise, so that he actually gets he feels himself that I used to be too scared to play in the sandpit, now I can play in the sandpit. I used to be too scared to look at the windows, now I can look in the windows. Right. Now I can stand in the door and just have a look in. And if he knows that that's all he's got to do, we're not going to go inside, you're just going to go up, open the door, have a look in. Or I'll open it, how close do you want to stand? Here, do you want to stand 5 feet away, 10 feet away, 15 feet away, on the other side of the playground? And then you can say to them, all right, you start way over there, and then just start walking forward and stop when it just gets a little bit, a little bit too much. And that way, over time, he'll just start to get in closer and closer and closer. You know your children, and you know that this is not just, attention-seeking stuff. This is, he's actually really not happy, and there are really good reasons for this, so we're just not going to push it. We're just going to take it slowly. At the end of the day, one of the most important things to remember is to still have fun with your kids. One of the mums that we met and talked to looks after, in sort of home-based daycare stuff, a bunch of little 3- and 4-year-olds. And she says that regularly what they'll do is they'll get inside one of those little indoor tents with all their toys, they'll sit there for a bit, and someone will shake the walls, and they'll all go, oh, it's an earthquake. And then it'll stop, and they'll sit there for a minute, and they'll go, oh no, the house is broken, we'll have to move out. So they unzip it and they chuck all their toys out. And they move out, down to the lounge and sit around waiting for the EQC to shut. Oh. It's very cute and quite funny, but that's an important part of how they start to make sense of what's happened and get their heads around it. Like, that's how small children do. They incorporate the stuff into their play and their drawings and those sorts of things. Months later, families in Christchurch are still struggling with the psychological fallout from the February 2011 quake. However, despite the huge disruption to their lives, it's important for mums and dads to remember the basic parenting principles. Routines and rules are important. Getting back to school as soon as possible is also important. Chores still need to be done, and remember that a quake isn't a get-out-of-jail-free card for bad behaviour. Lack of sleep is a big issue for families. Do whatever it takes to get enough sleep. At some point, for some kids, I need to sleep in your room is going to shift to, I just kind of like it. So where that line is, it's really hard to know. And there's no, I think, objective, verifiable way to judge that. It's just about you trusting your instincts about where you think, I don't necessarily know that this is about need anymore. I think this is kind of about want.
Children off a conveyor belt.
If your kids are still getting worked up, one of the best things you can teach them are some simple relaxation skills. One of the simplest, easiest things that they can do is just that tensing all your muscles up, hold it for 3 seconds, let it go. Tense all these up, hold them for 3 seconds, let it go. Tense your knees up, hold them for 3 seconds, let it go. And if you just start doing that and moving physically through your body, then you do actually end up more relaxed, and there's good physiology to support this. You end up physically more relaxed, and the brain activity is more relaxed when people start off doing this stuff. If you're a little person and you've only got one way to describe how you feel, if the only way that you can describe how you feel when the monkey scampers up the tree is scared, you don't have many options. You've either got relaxed or scared. That's just 2. If your little person can learn a few new extra words to describe how they're feeling, so if they say, now, when a truck drives past, I feel scared, you go, is this more like worried? Yeah, it's more like worried. So what you've done is you've created this whole another option for them right there. It's not just scared or relaxed, there's something in the middle called worried. And you can use whatever words you want, but the more of those they can get, it just gives them a different way to start labelling how they're feeling, and it gives them more a sense of control over what they're doing. Distraction. If your child's beginning to get wound up over something, take their mind off it by talking about or doing something different. It's probably not helpful to dwell on the negatives. Kids often relive their experiences through play or drawings. Don't worry, this isn't a bad thing. It's an important coping mechanism, and it helps them make sense of what happened. What meditation and mindfulness are, it's just focused attention. There are sometimes you're stressed because of what's happening in the here and now. But once you get past that, really what you're stressed about is stuff that happened back there, or stuff that you're worried about or dreading or thinking about that's going to happen up there. And mindfulness is just literally being focused on where you are. I dropped in on the Earho family. Their home was severely damaged during the February quake, and now mum, dad and 4 kids are crammed into a tiny unit. Despite all this, these guys are doing some amazing things and doing it right by just getting on with it. If you could write an instruction manual for families about how to cope with events like this, what would be the basic points you would say?
We will now have a plan of what we will do, and it will be based off what we've gone through. I suppose the big thing that has helped us is having close family and friends.
Remember the advice to get kids to help if they can? Ricky and Cindy kept their kids busy by picking vegetables from the family farm and distributing them amongst other families who were displaced by the quake. You kept them really busy and doing a whole bunch of stuff, so it's almost like the earthquake was sort of in the background somewhere, because what they were really focused on was feeding Christchurch.
Feeding Christchurch.
Yeah. And routine. For 3 weeks after the quake, Ricky, Cindy and the kids were living in a hall with other families. However, they carried on their usual family routine wherever possible.
Our kids from a young age have had jobs in chores, and even Melody has her jobs in chores. She has to put her bike away, she has to put her PJs in her bed, and the boys have had chores, and so that was part of normality.
Based on what you've done and what you've seen, what are the key points to help kids get through?
I know the earthquake is a big thing and it has affected people, but not over-dramatising it to the children. You know, it's okay and we'll carry on with life the way we can, but not saying, oh, the earthquake is so bad and this is so bad and that's so bad. We're saying, this is how it is and let's carry on.
For us, with the age of our kids, being able to understand things as well, we didn't want them to be traumatised. We've tried to keep it fun for them.
So like even in the beginning when we had the TV and we finally did get to see what was happening in the centre of the city, we wouldn't let the kids see that.
In saying that, we've taken them to the city and we've shown them what's happened. And the kids know that there's been loss of life. So we've not tried to ignore that this has all happened, but we've allowed them to still be kids, I suppose, and to play and enjoy and focus on other things.
I think the air hose are a great example of a family who are making progress and moving forward. But it can be hard work and not everyone's doing so well. But wherever your family is on the road to recovery, rest assured you will make it through. Just some wise words from Winston, not him, Churchill. There's a great quote from Winston Churchill. He basically said, if you're going through hell, keep going. I think that's a really good advice for the situation that you guys find yourselves in. You just keep plodding on. That's how you get there. After spending time in Christchurch, I couldn't help but be impressed by how people were working together and watching out for each other. I'm convinced it's this strong sense of community more than anything else that'll help them get through. If you want more information about the topics we covered in tonight's show, check out the Safe and Sound website at safeandsoundnz.co.nz.